here. I'm off to another wine tasting at one of Manchester's finest establishments. Can you guess where? Well, I'm on King Street, so that might give you an idea. But yes, we're going to find out whether or not this grape variety is Phoenician or was it imported by the conquistadors from Argentina in the 17th century? Who knows? But yeah, hopefully some really good wines to be tasted, courtesy of Anotra & Co. So yeah, see you in a bit. Bye. Hola folks, Nick here from the Amphora Annals, and we're with Sara Blanco from this wonderful winery that we're going to talk about in just a second. We're in 1 minute sunny, 1 minute rainy Manchester in a restaurant called Tast, one of the gems of the centre of Manchester, and we've just had an amazing wine tasting, and we'll love you to talk a little bit about it if that's okay. Great. So over to you.
No, hola a todos, thank you for having me. And yeah, my name is Sara Blanco. I'm export manager for Alma Carraovejas. This is the company, a company in Spain that's got right now 7 wine projects. The origin of everything started in Ribera del Duero in 1991. That was the first vintage that we released. We still own a restaurant in Segovia, where at the time, in around 1987 pretty much, we wanted to pour a wine that was like at the right level of quality, presentation, and that's why we created Pago de Carraovejas. That's where our founder, Jose Maria, started to make wine in this winery, and started to serve this wine in the restaurant, Pago de Carraovejas. This is a wine that we will taste later on. But first, we wanted to talk about Gran Main. It's a project that we are developing in Ribera. It's a region that's located in northwest Spain, in Galicia. It's the province of Ourense. We are settled there. Main is really the specific place where the winery is located, and here the main characteristic of it is that we have in the same vineyard we have up to 7 different white varieties. So it's most of it is Treixadura, but we also have a bit of Albariño, Godello, Caño Blanco, Lado, and Torrontés. So, and Loureira as well, sorry. So we harvest all those varieties separately, and we vinify them as well separately in different materials and different sizes. So we use concrete, but we also use wood, Austrian food dress. We also use glass, wine globes, and many other materials depending on the size of the vineyard, on the characteristics of the grapes. And later on, once everything is vinified and aged, we do the final blend, the final coupage, and that's what we have in here, Gran Main.
When you were talking about this during the tasting, that was the one wine, all the wines are amazing by the way, but that was the one wine in particular that really got everyone's attention and imagination going. Is how can you blend so many different vinification styles into one and make it so harmonious? Because for me, that was as good as all the white wines were, that was the absolute standout, but it's trying to pick out these different flavours, and it's one of the most complex Spanish wines I've tried in a long time. And that's not necessarily to do with the field blend. I mean, if I blind tasted that, I couldn't tell you what was in there. Yeah. But in terms of the character and the texture and the oiliness, the different aromatics of the wine, you can tell that there's a lot going on in there. Mm-hmm. Is that the wine that you said there was, what was it, something like €5 per bottle of effort and work goes into each bottle of wine over the course of a year, which is just sensational hard work. It works. So
I mean, we get a lot of rain in this specific area of Spain. It rains a lot. We get a lot of mildew. We get a lot of black rot and many other diseases. So we have to be in the vineyard all the time. So the amount of efforts we put into being there, taking care of the vineyards, and being there because we work with a completely ecological mentality. We don't use any chemicals at all. That adds up to, we estimated pretty much that the cost of bottle, only the viticulture part of it, is about €5 approximately, which is huge. Like it's really a lot of money, and it's something that we have really to strive to produce the wine, because the area the climate does not help us a lot, but the result is really good.
The result's amazing. The harder you work for something, the better the quality of the product, and that's the perfect example. I think it's funny. So we say it was predominantly Trichadora, 80%. But in terms of the tasting notes for this, my original notes were smooth palate, buttery, loads of minerality. To be honest, the whole range for me was that huge minerality that was coming through in every wine.
Because of the granite that we mentioned soils.
As well. Very floral, quite smoky, aromatic, very perfumed, blah blah blah. For me, it's the notes, the aromatics that were coming through immediately. Loads of orchard fruits, peaches, pears, apricots, that kind of stuff. But it's the layers you go through, and when you come through to that kind of granite smokiness, for me that was the signature of this wine. That's why I wanted to profile it and see what you could say. I mean, in terms of how many bottles you make, how many would you say you make of this?
I would say in the total project, because we make 5 wines in this specific winery, in total it's about 40,000 bottles, that's it. So
which is nothing.
It's nothing.
And you split that across 5 wines?
Yeah. And some of them are only single vineyards, but it's just tiny, it's just not a lot, definitely.
Fantastic. And in terms of the area itself, where could you, if you were to fly into an airport, if you wanted to visit, where would you say is the easiest port of call?
So, I mean, luckily we have a high-speed train from Madrid, which is only 2 hours away, 2 hours trip. You get to Orense, that's the city, and then you hire a car and you're in the winery in about half an hour, or you can go directly to Santiago de Compostela, which has quite a big airport as well, and you can get there also I think it's about a couple of hours, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, something like that.
I think it's worth it. I think it's very much worth it. But yeah, hopefully, you'll get to try this wine very soon as it's hitting the UK. Wait, has it hit the UK already, or we're rolling? Yeah. We are rolling with it. But fantastic wine. Now, let me edit that bit. Right, so we'll stop. Right, so we'll do the red now, which was, you want to talk about the history of the company itself, and then we'll go straight into that. 2, 3. And now we're over to the red, which for me, again, we've just done a tasting of 6 amazing wines from this company. In terms of value for money, this Ribera, the second it hit the glass, I fell deeply in love. We love red wine, I love white wine as well, but this red wine, for me, encapsulated everything that I want in a Ribera. It was super concentrated, and yeah, I absolutely loved it. But before we get onto the tasting notes, I'll pass you back again for a little bit of history about. Would we say this is the embryonic wine of the company? Right,
this is really the flagship. This is where it all began, and this is where we put a lot of efforts as well, because it's really the brand that we have developed for longer. So the first vintage, as I said, is 1991, and since then we have had time to develop technologically, and we have been able to refine a lot the wine. So it's 92% of Tinto Fino or Tempranillo. It's a 5% of Cabernet Sauvignon and a 3% of Merlot. And we do a 12-month aging in American and French 80%. And American 20% oak barrels. So it's a wine that was designed, let's say, to have with really powerful food like the suckling pig that we still serve at the restaurant called Jose Maria in Segovia. But right now, because of the refined version that we have with us, we can still have it with other kinds of food. So it's much more versatile than it maybe used to be at the time. So you don't have to think of it as a really with a lot of wood, really strong and really with high, tight, rough tannins. It's a really velvety wine, easy to drink, and yeah, I really hope you get the chance to taste it soon.
Great stuff. I mean, for me, super elegant, really concentrated on the nose. Then, I mean, we're trying it, an hour after we've opened the bottle, it's really begun to open up. Again, minerality coming through, loads of ripe black fruits, a bit of red fruit in there. The vanilla is nice, but it's in the background from the oak. Super silky, super elegant. Just a superb example, I suppose, of Ribera, because Ribera, you can get some cheaper end, a bit like Rioja, not necessarily pre-wrap, but you can get some cheaper end that are okay, but as soon as you move up, you're willing to spend a few more pounds or euros, you can really see the character. And if that is your flagship wine, your number one kind of carrier of the flag of the winery. That is amazing wine. That genuinely, that is the value for money. That is sensational. Before we finish, I have one question for you. Maybe I should have warned you about this beforehand, but it's all right. The history. Beat that out. The history of Tempranillo.
Yeah.
There's two theories. I want to see what your theory is. One is that it's 2,000 years old.
Yeah.
Phoenician from the Middle East, and the other is 17th century Argentina with the conquistadors. Do you have any idea which one it might be? I'm not going to put you on the spot.
I mean, the closest relative of Tempranillo is right. So as far as I know, the closest relative of Tempranillo is a grape variety called Benedicto that we can find in Rioja, basically, and that's like the father that still exists in many areas. We don't vinify it as Tempranillo, but in the project that we have in Rioja, in Ayurri, the Ayurri project, we have identified many vines of Benedicto that have exactly like very similar characteristics with Tempranillo, and that seems to be the father of Tempranillo as a variety itself. But I don't know. I don't know if it really was the exact origin of it in terms of like if it was Spain as it is, or if it's from somewhere else. I don't know. But
it's quite interesting when you have a look online or you read any books. The history of Tempranillo, you can go back maybe 300 years, and then all of a sudden it gets a little bit. Sometimes it gets a bit shaky in terms of its history. There's two rules of thumb that I've read. Is one of its conquistadors in Argentina, kind of South America in general. They brought it back in the 17th century. But there's some rule of thumb that would suggest it's Phoenician, which means Middle Eastern. The Phoenicians 2,500 years ago were spreading vines all over Europe. So either or works for me. But maybe one day we'll find out. But all that remains to be said is thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
That was an amazing tasting, and folks, make sure you get on these wines. I'll post links below where you can buy them, and hopefully you'll taste them too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Buenos días.
Ciao.
Thank you.